see. Okay. Okay. Are you ready?
Yes.
All right, well, let's say it. What do we say when we start?
We're talking about to a Sunday cozy party edition. Also is a book about thing. I could be the you.com.
Good job. Okay. For those who didn't catch that, that was what's up, everybody. Good morning. Welcome to a Sunday edition of Morning Scone presented by Brock, the Baton Orthopedic Clinic, Hudco Roofing, HudcoRoofing.com, Restored Motions, RestoredMotions.com, and ProChargeEV, ProChargeEV.com. All right. Lot to get to today. Hope you had a great Saturday. We did. We had the Keller Christmas party yesterday at our house. So we had this thing popping off until about 1 in the morning.
Love that song.
Well, after Daddy's show, then we're going to get dressed and we're going to go to Mama's house because we're going to go have lunch to celebrate Papa's birthday and watch the Saints. And then after Momo's house, where's Daddy and Drew going to go? To the mall. And after mall, we'll ride around and pass by Beverage General. Then where are we going to go? Drew's house. And I bet Mommy and Drew will go to the park and see Duke. And then we'll go to Drew's house, wear your backpack. And then we'll watch football, and clean the house, and eat your dinner, and get all clean, and go night-night, sleep all through the night. When you wake up, it'll be Monday. Okay? All right. Okay, it is game day, y'all. Okay, bud. Great to see you. It is game day. Who dat? Saints and the Giants, the G-Men, from the Dome, noon. I do like the Saints to win today. I've been pretty consistent on this. I am always really big on spots, right? I know Tommy DeVito over here is a really good story, and everybody's kind of excited about it. Tommy Cutlets. He's all over TikTok and all that jazz, and I respect very much what he's been able to do. I also think realistically, you have limitations there. The Giants' offense is still not very good. They did have the game-winning drive to go beat Green Bay 24-22. The week before that, they beat New England 10-7. Before that, they did win at Washington 31-19. Prior to that, they lost to Dallas 49-17. They lost to the Raiders 30-6. So, I mean, I think whenever the Giants have, this was pretty clear. When the Giants have played the better teams on their schedule, they have not just lost, but they largely lose badly. Their two losses to Dallas are 40-0 and 49-17. They lost to the Niners 30-12. They lost to the Dolphins 31-16. They lost to the Bills 14-9, and that was in Orchard Park. That was at Buffalo, but they still only scored 9 points. Point being, they've really struggled against the better teams on their schedule. What I really don't know is, are the Saints one of the better teams on their schedule? I think the Saints have the talent to be, and the Saints are at home. But here's the other part about the spot. The Giants played on Monday Night Football. So they played in New York on Monday night, while the Saints played Sunday afternoon. So the Saints have had a full extra day to get ready. Not only are the Giants playing on a short week after Monday Night Football, short week on the road after Monday Night Football. So it's a quicker week to get ready with a rookie quarterback. The more tape that's out there on a rookie quarterback, I think the easier it is, the more teams are able to scheme against him. Not that necessarily he's a rookie, but I'll give you the example of Josh Dobbs when he went to Minnesota. Dobbs had a really nice start, didn't he? And then all of a sudden, you start to get more familiar with what he's doing, what they're doing with him, and then all of a sudden, he loses his job to Nick Mullins. So I do like the Saints in this game today. I don't think it's a very high-scoring game. The line was 6. I saw it's dropped down to 5.5 this morning. And smart money moves lines, right? So there's some bettors taking the Giants with the points, but I still like the Saints at home in this game. I think, a 21-17 type game, a high teens, low 20s game is probably what you're looking at. And I do like the Saints to win it at home. So I think the Saints win. I think they get back to 500 at 7-7. But the problem is then the next 2 weeks they have to go on the road, and I don't think they're winning at LA or at the Bucks. So I do think the Saints get to 500 today, but then I think they lose the next 2, and then it's really a matter of, do you win at home against Atlanta to go 8-9, or do you finish 7-10? So that's how I see the rest of the season going for New Orleans, but I do think they get a win today. All right, we'll say some good mornings here. The other story I have there in the description, in case you missed it, is that LSU hosted another transfer quarterback this weekend on an official visit. It's former Vanderbilt quarterback A.J. Swan. So this kind of maps to what I've been telling you for several weeks now, right? LSU is not going to be willing to go sign, a $1 million NIL quarterback. They're not looking for a starter out of the portal, and that's fine. If you don't feel like there's a player worth spending that NIL money on because they're dramatically better than Nussmeier, great. That's a great sign for Nussmeier and your confidence in him and all that. But I've repeatedly said this, and for the benefit of those that haven't heard it, I'll say it again. You're either going to go spend $1 million, $2 million, whatever in the portal to get one of the top quarterbacks, or you're going to get a depth piece to fill that gap between fourth-year Garrett Nussmeier and redshirt freshman Ricky Collins. Because you're a turned ankle, a stomach bug, a Dallas Turner cheap shot away from having to rely on your next guy. And you may say, well, then when are you ever going to trust Ricky Collins? I don't know. When he's ready. And maybe he would be ready if that situation presents. But what if he's not? Wouldn't you rather have a guy that's been in the SEC for a few seasons? I mean, I'm looking at Swan right here. 2 years at Vanderbilt, 15 appearances, 12 starts. Started 6 times in 2023. 1,500 passing yards, 12 touchdowns, 7 interceptions. I mean, yes. He's a quarterback of a bad football team. I mean, I'm not sitting there. But that's the point, right? Like, I'm not sitting there telling you that you'd be bringing in A.J. Swan to start. You're bringing him in because he's a depth piece. He's a guy that's spent, that spent a couple of years at Vanderbilt and played in 15 games, made a dozen starts. He's got more college experience in 2 years than Garrett Nussmeier does in 3. So yes, bring that guy in. Give me a depth piece at the most important position on the field. Okay. All right, let's say some good mornings. You know the drill. If you're on YouTube, please smash that like button. Facebook, please like the Matt Moscona page, share the post. We appreciate y'all for being here. As always, we'll say some good mornings, questions, comments, fire away. Kelly Gross, Vernell Thomas, Bubba Smith, Thad Landry, what's going on? Let's see. Boop. I'm pulling up the I'm waiting to see I'm waiting for the inactives today. I know Ryan Ramczyk may not be active. We'll see. They elevated Marquez Callaway and tackle Cameron Irving. Ramczyk was on the last injury report, so let's see. So Ramczyk officially questionable. Jamal Williams, Cam Jordan were limited. Peyton Turner was out. Olave, questionable. Kendra Miller out. We knew that. So we'll see. See how it goes today, man. All right. Christian, good morning. Brad Johnson, good morning. Not that Brad Johnson, I would guess. Jesse Brown, strong side, good morning. Trivia Carter, Irfan Sayyad. Austin Kidder, what's going on? Jesse Brown, hopefully the Saints win, so it's a happy trip to the mall. For sure, man. You know what? Excuse me. And by the way, as we look at the rest of the division, Tampa is at Green Bay today, so that's a tough spot for Tampa to go on the road in mid-December to Lambeau Field. The Falcons play at the Panthers, so it's a divisional game. You would love to see Carolina play with a little pride and maybe get a win today. That would be a tremendous help for New Orleans if the Saints could win and both Tampa and Atlanta were to lose today. Then the Saints would take over first place of the division. Shane Bigfella, good morning. Neil Ehrlich, good morning. Hopefully a pleasant, upbeat ride to the mall. Trivia saying, tank. I mean, listen. No. I'm not going to hope my team tanks. I'm not going to hope my team loses. I want them to win. I want them to win the division. I want them to go to the playoffs. So, again, I don't know that I necessarily believe that will happen. I think the Saints' futility will take care of that on its own. But if I have an opportunity to watch my team play in the playoff, win the division and play in the playoffs, then yes, I want to see that. Christian, with the NC State quarterback transferring to Maryland, any idea of other quarterbacks LSU will be targeting the portal? Yes, Christian. As a matter of fact, we just talked about that. Sorry, so I'm behind your question. But they hosted A.J. Swan from Vanderbilt on an official visit this weekend. And again, I don't expect you to do backflips over A.J. Swan. That's not the point. When I keep saying LSU has got to add a quarterback in the portal, I don't know if a lot of you believe me, but that is not an anti-Nuss sentiment. It's a, you have got to add depth at that position sentiment. You can't go, it's the same, like they did the same thing 2 years ago. You had Miles Brennan, who's a fifth year. You had an experienced guy who had never played really. You had, or a veteran guy who had never played, I should say. And then you had a redshirt freshman Garrett Nussmeier and true freshman Walker Howard. It's the same situation you were in 2 years ago. Same situation. And you went and got Jaden Daniels, and that worked out. And I'm not telling you that A.J. Swan's going to come in here and win a Heisman Trophy. But, they brought Jaden Daniels in here to compete. He won the job and ended up being great. So, the fact that they keep talking to quarterbacks tells you their intention. And it's right, because I'll say it again. If you don't add a quarterback out of the portal, that is negligent on Brian Kelly and this staff's part. Jay Turner, good morning, Matt. I think the Saints win today. I think we split the road games at LA and Tampa. I think we beat Atlanta at home to end the year 9-8. We'll get in that scenario. I agree. If the Saints go 9-8 in that scenario, especially if the two wins, if they split, they lose at LA and beat Tampa and win your division games, then I do believe they'll get in. I don't know that I believe that, though. I don't know that the Saints are going on the road, because just like I talked about scenarios for the Giants playing on Monday night, then traveling, I don't like the Saints going West Coast, then East Coast. So, two time zones over to play on the West Coast against the Rams, and you come home, then you go East Coast to play the Bucks, back-to-back travel weeks at the end of the season, especially when you're not very healthy. The Bucks absolutely destroyed you in your building earlier this year. I don't know how you turn that around. So no, I don't think that's going to happen for the Saints, but I do think they're going to win today, and I hope they do. James Avery, Damon Gilmore, James Serio. Let's go 500 today. Who that? Brad David, Wendell Norman. Make defense great again. Matt, does this show that LSU is just getting an experienced backup for Nuss? Yes. You're bringing in someone to compete who has experience to compete with Nussmeier. And best case, Nussmeier is awesome. And you have a veteran backup who started SEC games if something happens. Let's see. Jay Turner, Garrett Nussmeier is our starting quarterback next year. He's waited his turn, and it's his team next year. You see, Jay Turner, I fundamentally disagree with that logic. Nothing is given anyone, nor should it be. I'll remind you that Miles Brennan waited his turn, and it was his team, and it was his turn. But it wasn't. They went and got a quarterback who was better. And you have got to recalibrate how you look at the quarterback position and all positions in the transfer portal era. It's not about rewarding someone who waits their turn. It's about playing the best players. And isn't that what we love about sports? Sports is a true meritocracy. The best players play. That's how it goes. So you don't just stand pat and say, oh, it's Garrett Nussmeier's team. No, it's not. He's got to go earn that on the field, which he has never done. So bringing in a veteran quarterback is a good thing. There is no argument against bringing in a veteran quarterback. There's no salient argument. It's why this staff keeps going and talking to quarterbacks. You got to do it. Soubre or Sober, S-O-U-B-R-E, good morning. Bailey C., you got to be proud of Tommy D with a name like Moscona. Tommy Cutlets. Tommy Cutlets. Adrian Bond, good morning. Let's see, players need to stop babying Derek Carr. He's a 10-year veteran. You can only go as far as your quarterback. I agree. Is Drew in his Baja Man era? Who left the dogs? He's got so all of Drew's Christmas toys all sing songs. They all sing and dance and move and anyway. And he loves them all. But he has it's like a little Dalmatian with a Santa hat that has oh no, that's the Big Butts one. Y'all can hear him, I'm sure. He's 2 rooms over. I don't know what that is. Like sirens or something. Please smash the like button if you would. If you're new, subscribe up to the channel. Hey, Dad. Good morning. Happy Sunday. Father John David III, good morning. Is 7 and 10 or 8 and 9 enough to move on from DA? 7 and 10, yes, because I think to get there, you win today and then you lose your next 3. And if you lose your next 3, if you finish the season on a 3-game losing streak, I think that would do it. Especially 2 division games, you miss the playoffs again. Yes, I think that would do it. 8 and 9 is a little tricky because in theory, you could beat Tampa and Atlanta, go 8 and 9, and win your division as an 8-9 team in a tiebreaker. So, and that's what Tampa did last year, and they kept Todd Bowles. So, so just literally answer your question: is it enough? Yes, but depending on how it looks, it could also be enough to keep him. BL, good morning. Austin, Matt, I feel like part of Nuss's interception problem is his urgency to wow the coaches with big play and prove he should start. Hopefully he plays more patiently and controlled now. Yeah, Austin, I wish that I could agree with you on that. I just don't. I think it's just the way he plays the game. And what you hope is that a lot of that is rectified just with patience when the game slows down. I know it's cliche, but it's true. And that's an incredible catch when DeAndre Hopkins caught that ball under his leg. When the more you play, people say, well, the game just slows down. I think that's part of it. Like when you can think a little bit. Oh wow, that's incredible. Bruce Shales, good morning, Matt. So sad to see Tony's regression in the cage. Yeah, man. You know, you're talking about Tony Ferguson, who lost last night. It happens to everyone, though, man. Like, and for fighters, they just, oh, wow. It's so hard for them. It's incredible. They're doing on ESPN top plays that didn't count. Randy Moss about 5 yards past the line of scrimmage when he threw that. Anyway, every fighter, their day comes, but it's so hard for those fighters to hang it up. Like, fighters fight, and so they all end up seemingly going well past their prime. The exception is Georges St. Pierre or, Habib, guys that walk away while they're still at their physical peak. But yes, it happens to all of them, man. It happened to Anderson Silva. It happened to the greatest ever. It happens to all of them. Bailey C., you pitched pennies with the secondary last year. That went poorly. You know what, Bailey C., I don't know that I necessarily think they pinch pennies. I think because I do understand your point. So, like, for example, they went after Fentrell Cypress from Virginia, who picked Florida State, and Florida State paid triple what LSU was willing to pay. LSU offered $100K. He got $300 at Florida State. Okay. But it's possible they could have looked at that and said, we don't think he's worth it. And honestly, they were right, because Fentrell Cypress didn't have a great year at Florida State this year. But would he have been better than everybody LSU had? Yeah. Now, the other part of that, too, is, in fairness, you have to acknowledge this, too, is they got J.K. Johnson from Ohio State, who got injured in fall camp. We never got to see him. So let's just say, hypothetically, J.K. Johnson was the best of the four they brought in last year, and he ended up starting every game. And then Zy Alexander ended up being your number 2. And then you just missed on Deuce Chestnut, and Denver Harris was a knucklehead, right? What if you had gotten what if Zy Alexander was your number 2 opposite J.K. Johnson, who ended up being really good? It's kind of a different conversation, right? I mean, think a year ago where Jark Bernard Converse and Mekhi Garner stepped up, which meant you didn't really have to rely on Colby Richardson. I mean, I feel like so you're not wrong, but I also feel like it's just incomplete, right? It's an incomplete grade, because what if J.K. Johnson had been healthy? And we'll get to see that this year. You know, I will tell you, like, I know, like, they're trying to get the Cameron Richardson from Mississippi State. There's a couple other players at corner out of the portal that we've talked about that they're targeting. But you're going to get J.K. Johnson healthy, and I'm interested to see how that goes. I don't know how it goes. Maybe he stinks too. I don't know, but I'm interested to see. Let's see, Gulf South. Bro, I lost $17,000 parlay yesterday. I had Lil Jordan, Laporta, St. Brown all with a touchdown. Okay, that hit. Judy and Sutton over 49.5 yards. Goff and Wilson throwing 239.5. All hit but Wilson, he had 223. Oh, my God. How much did you put that would have won you $17,000? What were the odds on that? That's a brutal beat. To be 17 yards away or 18 yards away. Oh, man. Russell Wilson, 18 yards away. Parlays, man. I'll eat you alive. Oh, my God. 17K. Oh, man. Brad David. If Dennis Allen's fired, would you be okay with a defensive-minded coach and a good offensive coordinator? I would rather an offensive-minded coach. Okay, so you bet $20 on it. Okay. That's way more approachable, right? You almost, like, you took the Hail Mary shot and it was bobbled in the end zone, and they didn't control it to the ground. L.A. Chris, sorry to bother Mike, but Nuss is Jarrett Lee 2.0. I think he'll take a couple steps back if he starts this year. Remember with Jarrett Lee, as his career went along, he solved the interception problem. I mean, Jarrett Lee, his senior year, he led the country in QB efficiency. So it is possible for guys to develop and mature the more they play. I just think when we talk about this, and the reason I repeat myself so much on it is because I know the way people are going to interpret what I'm saying, but it is not an anti-Garrett Nussmeier sentiment. Like, he is going to go into camp and take the first rep, as he should. He is your most veteran player, and he will have the first crack to earn the job, and he did stay and all that stuff. But that doesn't mean you just hand him the job and say, well, let's see what happens. Again, in a former era, yes, that's how it would have gone. But in a former era, Walker Howard is still here, and Nussmeier and Howard are competing for the job. But in this era, Howard left, and now you have a gap in your quarterback room. So you can fill it with the portal. So you do. It's not hard. It's logical. Yeah. Jay Turner, you just hating us. You know he's better than some scrub Vandy quarterback. Come on, Matt. I don't see. This is why I have to keep explaining it. I don't know any other way that I could say it as plainly as I just did. But you're still going to have people that think that. So you wonder why I say it over and over as plainly as I can, because guys like that still don't understand where I'm coming from. Like, let's say you love Garrett Nussmeier, Jay Turner. Let's say you love him, okay? And you go play USC, and in the first game of the season, God forbid, he breaks his leg. God forbid. Would you rather have a redshirt freshman who's never played or a guy that's started a dozen games in the SEC? Who would you rather? Just blind resume. There's an easy answer to that question. Like, it's insurance. Why is this hard to understand? I don't understand why this is hard for you to understand. And by the way, to all the people who think I hate Nuss, fool, I was right about Jaden Daniels. I was right about Jaden. You were wrong. I was right about the guy that went and won the Heisman freaking trophy and had an historic career and season. So I wish I could say all the words, but I'm not gonna, because it's morning Scone. But I was right, chump. Christian, I've been spreading your gospel about bringing in depth pieces to compete for starting job, especially quarterback. Funny how fans say they want to win but don't want to find and play the best players. Michael Boudreaux, good morning. Handsome Joe, good morning, Matt. Late game last night in Shreveport. Tech looked great. Stud running back Brooks coming back next year for today. Go Saints. Yeah, Independence Bowl yesterday. Texas Tech beat Cal. Had a good night last night. Good day. Watched a lot of football yesterday. We had Erica's family, the Keller Christmas party over here last night. I didn't go to bed till about 1. I think the last people left around about midnight. So we had a good part. Started about 6. Had the fire pit going outside. Good drinks flowing. Great food. Great family. And it was awesome. Had a great time. Please smash the like button if you would. Trivia Carter, why is everybody hoping the Saints barely make the playoffs? We need to clean house. Trivia, because I would always rather make the playoffs than not. If given the choice between the Saints winning the next 4 games and making the playoffs or losing, I will choose winning. I would rather win and go to the playoffs. Again, I don't think that's going to happen, but that's what I'm going to cheer for. I'm going to watch my team play today and hope that they win. I'm going to cheer for them to win the game today. And next week, and the week after, and the week after. Drew sounds like a siren. Mike Lorino, James Avery. My dogs can hear Drew in the background. They're looking for him. The GOAT. Morning, Matt. Headed to the Dome for my first Saints game ever. What do you think about Bama hiring the Michigan linebackers coach? That's a little bit of a troll job, huh? Or maybe not a troll job. Maybe that's just Nick being Nick, looking for any smidge of an advantage he can find. By the way, how about this? Let's not use LSU as an example to all the people who don't think LSU should bring in a quarterback. How about Nick Saban in Alabama? He had Jalen Milroe. Milroe had been there. He had waited his turn. It was his turn to step up and be the starter. What did they do? They went and got Tyler Buckner from Notre Dame. Why? He's a guy that had played football before. And you know what happened? They competed, and Milroe won the job. But you know what you had? A veteran experienced backup if something happened. Go compete. Bring in options. I'm not saying don't bring in a backup. I'm saying Nuss is our clear starting quarterback. Have you seen what the man can do throwing the football? His deep ball is gorgeous. He can throw that damn football. And I'm telling you that he will take the first snap and should take the first snap. But the people who said Miles Brennan was the starting quarterback also were wrong. So you bring in someone to compete. And I genuinely don't care how pretty of a deep ball you throw, because being a starting quarterback isn't about just having nice touch on a ball. You've got to be able to function within the offense. You've got to be able to make plays. You've got to be able to make decisions. And the biggest problem with Garrett that he's had in his career has been his decision making with the football. He's made poor decisions with the ball. And that's fixable. And if he does fix it, yeah, he can be great, but he's got to fix that. Joe Parker, Jesse Brown, is Daniel sitting at the bowl game? He hasn't announced yet, but I'll continue to say I'll be very surprised if he plays. My assumption is he is going to go work with his quarterback coach in California, get ready for the Senior Bowl. Go Giants, right? Tank for Jaden. Tommy, what has Nuss done to be our clear-cut starter exactly? That's the point. When you bring in competition, I would put it here's the way I would put it to you. If Walker Howard had stayed, because to be very honest with you, to the guy who said that a minute ago about throwing the pretty ball, Walker Howard has a better arm than Garrett Nussmeier. Period. I went to fall camp last year, every single practice, and I watched all four of the quarterbacks stand side by side when Brennan was still there. It was Brennan, Daniels, Howard, Nussmeier, all of them. And Walker Howard had the best arm of all of them. So if Walker Howard were still here, would you still be saying that about the pretty deep ball and all that stuff? No. Damon Gilmore disappointed Boise last night. Missed on 5 late. Yeah, I had Boise yesterday. I had Boise 5.5. Looked good at halftime, didn't it? Ryan Pike, very telling. I feel more confident about the Giants +6 if Carr is playing than Jameis. Damon, Tony is old, has a ton of wars. You just can't do it at the level of fighting 20-year-olds. It's true. That's back to an MMA conversation. Let's see. Brambo, I'm riding with Nuss. Loyalty still means something to me. I wish he was starting the bowl game. If he's going to have to compete for the job, he should get reps with the first, in my opinion. So I disagree on the first part. I totally agree with the second part. The loyalty thing. And here's, I don't want to, in life, disparage loyalty, but here's the point. If you get caught up playing the loyalty game, that's tough because the other party doesn't necessarily have to be loyal to you. Meaning, let's say LSU is loyal to Nussmeier, just hypothetical, right? And so they don't add anybody. But then he leaves because he can. Well, then he's left you in a lurch, right? The loyalty thing just doesn't make sense. Look at look at Bryce Langston. I'm thinking of a player that hit the portal. I've been here for a while. So Bryce Langston has been at LSU for 3 years. In theory, look, he's been loyal. He's been here for 3 years. Shouldn't he start? Shouldn't you be loyal to him because he's been here for 3 years and waited his turn? Or do you go find players in the portal that you feel are better at that position? What's good for the goose is good for the gander, right? It can't just be about loyalty. The flip side of it is the bowl game. I agree completely. the bowl games are no longer about and like, does anybody still think a bowl game is like a reward and it's an honor to go? Like, nobody really still thinks that, right? Everybody understands. I don't think we need to clarify that, but the benefit of a bowl game now is it's basically a second spring practice. You get 15 practices in a game. It's kind of like another spring practice. So I'm okay with the guys that choose not to play, that are leaving. If you want to play, great. Malik Neighbors, Brian Thomas want to play? Come on, absolutely. But if guys choose not to, and it's an opportunity to get more reps and game reps for guys that you're going to count on next year, I'm perfectly good with that. Hi, baby. Thank you for coming to Daddy. Okay. Good job. You don't like having that backpack on. All right. Good job. Thank you. But I totally agree on the importance of this bowl practice and the game for Garrett. This is 15 practices with him taking all the 1 reps and preparing for a game as the starter, which he's only done once. That was his freshman year when he started against Arkansas, and LSU lost like 16-13 in overtime. It was not good, if y'all remember that game. So yes, I completely agree on that perspective. Like, I would love to see, selfishly would love to see Jaden play again in purple and gold and all that sort of stuff. Just to see him out there one more time. I would love to see that. But looking ahead, I kind of hope he doesn't play, because for the reason I just said, like, get me 15 practices with Nuss taking the 1 reps and then preparing to start a game and playing a full game as the starter. Let's go see what that looks like, put that on film and work through that in the spring and then again in fall camp. So yes, the second part of that I completely agree with. All right, let's see, Matt. You're talking about travel and time zones. With Dennis Allen, I don't think it matters. He's terrible if they play in Transylvania. Noted. Let's see, Brennan Huff, H.D. Williams, good morning. Bruce, bro, if we get eliminated from playoff contention, don't we owe it to ourselves to look at Jake? What is there? Maybe we don't need to draft a quarterback, draft the O-line. No, and by the way, you're not going to be eliminated from playoff contention likely until the last week. Just the way this division works. And no, I would not play Jake Haener. Brennan Huff on the way to the Dome. Okay. Oops. Yeah. Sorry, I lost my spot. I'm getting back to it here. Here we are. I'm almost there. Sorry, y'all. One second. Here we go. James Serio, do you think post-spring LSU tries to go out and buy the best available cornerback? Well, James, I don't even know that it's necessarily post-spring. I think they are, they are trying to add cornerbacks now. They're trying to add DeCameron Richardson from, who's a North Louisiana kid who went to Mississippi State. I'll remind you again, like, you're going to have J.K. Johnson back and Zy Alexander, depending on how he recovers from the ACL. So I don't even think they ever made that public. Zy Alexander tore his ACL against Army on that play right before half. So he's got to rehab the ACL, but he's intending to come back. So if he's back and healthy, you have J.K. Johnson, Zy Alexander, you got Toviano and Stamps, a lot of work this year. If you can add Richardson and one other starting caliber player via the portal, I think that's a good room with them, with who you have coming in. It's much better than you were this year. Antron Hemingway, good morning. Wish my boys luck as we play the Bills today. A rainy, overcast environment. No freezing weather or snow, just rain. I'll not be wishing the boys luck today. I have no feeling whatsoever for Dallas. And quite honestly, people from Louisiana that are Cowboys fans, that annoys me. But I love you, Antron. I just don't love that you're a Cowboy fan. Adrian Bonds, Matt, do you think the Saints get over the 3-and-out slump today? No, I'll tell you what worries me today is Kayvon Thibodeau. I mean, I don't think Andrew Speed's blocking Kayvon Thibodeau. I think that's a problem. I think the Giants' defensive line is a problem today. Milton Burrell, good morning, Matt. A happy or PO trip to the mall today, LOL. Hopefully a happy one. Swee Abbin, what's up? D-Night, Spurge, good morning. Seth Rushing, we get an immediate reaction video and the Saints blow another game, they should win. That's the plan, yes. We should be, we should have a immediate reaction video driving to the mall today, yes. Let's see, Brambo, Nick made Milroe compete. Now Milroe will likely be Heisman candidate at 24. I'm not against competing Nuss. I'm not against competing. Nuss needs to look impressive in the bowl game. Get a leg up on whoever comes in. Yeah, I mean, yes. Yes. Brambo, with Carr's contract, would the Saints still draft a quarterback? So that's the big question. And this is why I think the answer is no. For all that the Saints fans want them to draft a quarterback, you just look at it in terms of dollars and cents, okay? The Saints have guaranteed Derek Carr $100 million. His deal was $150. 100 of the 150 was guaranteed. So if you're guaranteeing a player $100 million, don't you want to do everything you can to maximize that contract? So if you have a first-round pick, are you going to take a quarterback, or are you going to take someone that's going to help maximize that quarterback that you paid? A left tackle, a wide receiver, Brock Bowers. You know what I mean? Like, that's more likely the route they're going to go. Like, do I want to see them draft a quarterback? So don't misunderstand me again. Do I want them to draft a quarterback? Yes, 100%. First round, take a quarterback. Draft your franchise. Take your swing. I just don't believe they're going to do it. Y'all probably seen that clip where we're talking about it's been 56 years and they've drafted a quarterback in round one time. 56 years. They just don't do it. Oh, they'll draft quarterbacks. They'll draft Jake Haener in round 4 and Sean Canfield in round 7 and Ian Book in round 4. And they almost got close with Garrett Grayson in round 3. But why am I going to believe this is going to be any different when you got a quarterback that you've already agreed to pay $100 million? Let's see. Gulf South, sometimes you win by losing, Matt. If the Saints lose the next 4 games, everyone wins by DA getting released. I mean, that would be the benefit, that you could move on. Yes, I'm with you. And that's what I think is going to happen. I think they're going to lose, and Dennis Allen's going to get fired, and I'll be happy to move on. However, if you're asking me what I would rather see, I would rather see my team make the playoffs, always. I would rather them win their next 4 games, go 10-7, and make the playoffs. Win the division, make the playoffs. Let's see. Jay Turner, Matt, listen to me on this. You were saying 2 years ago you wanted Jaden to start because the O-line sucked in the scrambling ability. Now that our O-line is elite, Nuss is going to let it rip. That was a huge part about Jaden 2 years ago. No, that's a huge part why they brought in a quarterback with mobility, because Brennan was statuesque. And yes, the offensive line is good now. How much did Jaden's legs mean to this team, though? And I'm not telling you A.J. Swan's the guy that's going to be dynamic running the football. That's not my point. But just because you have a great offensive line doesn't mean Nussmeier is going to be awesome. It doesn't mean he won't be. I'll give you this little tidbit. I don't mind sharing this. I probably shouldn't, but I will. So after every game, of course, every player gets graded. right, by the staff. There's a lot of LSU fans that were like super high on Garrett after the SEC championship against Georgia. Now people forget Jaden threw for 200 yards in the first half of that game, but whatever. Garrett Nussmeier's read rate was 20% in that game. 20%. Meaning they went and said, okay, how many times did you make the right read when they looked at the game film? 20%. I think sometimes fans, you can get caught up in the big arm or the spectacular play, and you lose sight of, or you casually eliminate or omit the negative plays. And I'll tell you, it's why there's a bunch of hesitation. Like, but I'll repeat, the good news is that's fixable. Like, you can coach decision making, and a lot of that improves with experience. And that's my sincere hope, because I agree with you. Physically, he's a great talent. But generally speaking, if you're going to get a scholarship to LSU, you've got to be a great talent to begin with. So, anyway. Tracy Cowley. Good morning, Tracy. Agree 1,000% about Nuss. He must get better at accuracy and decision making. That's what they got to work on with him, for sure. Nikki C. LSU's 2 best quarterbacks have been transfers. And they both came when they said LSU had their clear-cut starter already on the roster. People forget about that. Back in 2018, how high people were on Brennan, and incidentally, both of the guys they had on the roster were both Miles Brennan. But it's not just Burrow and Daniels. I mean, Edling was a transfer who won the job. Mettenberger was a transfer. I mean, you've not had great success with the guys you've recruited who stayed and developed. Michael Sumner, Saints 63, Giants 21. I love it. LA Chris, we don't have a large sample size enough to give him the starting job. We're trying to win natties, not sympathy. I don't want to hear what he did against 2s and 3s against Georgia in the SEC championship game. Next LSU Heisman winner, AJ Swan. I'm not saying that AJ Swan is going to win a Heisman. I'm not saying AJ Swan's even going to win the job. What I'm telling you is you bring in depth. It's what I've said so many times. Like, LSU had a decision to make. Like, and this is something I'm not guessing. This is what I'm telling you, okay? They had a decision to make. Did they go after a starter? Like, did they go after DJU or Cam Ward or Riley Leonard or any of the big name quarterbacks in the portal and spend 7 figures? Or do they ride with Nuss and find someone to compete and give depth? And they decided that Nuss was a better option than going to spend 7 figures on one of those quarterbacks. And I'm good with that. But you have still got to bring in someone to give you depth and competition and all that stuff. And that's what they're looking to do. And I'm good with that. And everybody should be. Let's see. Gulf South. A year later, why did Walker Howard really leave? Just to be in the same situation he was in at LSU. Between us, what's the real story? So I told you the real story. And I mean, I had a long conversation with Jamie about this. And he didn't want to come on air, but he didn't mind me sharing these tidbits. And I told you the story. Walker was going to be, when Jaden came back and Garrett stayed, that meant Walker was going to be scout team again. And he didn't want to be promised anything about playing time. But when you're running scout team, keep in mind, you're running your opponent's offense that week. And he didn't feel like he's getting better. And so wanted the opportunity to compete and to improve. And he didn't feel like he was going to get that. So he went to Ole Miss, and I'm going to tell you, and he knew, by the way, when he took his trip to Ole Miss, that Spencer Sanders was committing. Like, you can actually, I don't think that anyone's interested in doing this, but you can. If you go back to that Monday show, whatever it was, when Walker committed to Ole Miss, I said, I think they're still going to get Spencer Sanders, because it was already done. Spencer Sanders had already verbally committed at that point, so he knew. the thought in Oxford was that in bringing in Spencer Sanders, Jackson Dart was going to leave, but he didn't. He stayed, he won the job, and got better because of the competition. So it ended up being a miss in that respect for Walker. But I'll tell you this, I did have this conversation with Jamie. And again, he would not mind me saying this. And I love this about him because he's the kind of dad that doesn't meddle and or hype up his kids or anything like. And he's an awesome dad, and they're great. All of his kids are, all the ones that I've had the pleasure to meet are great kids and respectful and awesome. But he said that they had a conversation. He said, look, if football ended tomorrow, where would you be happy? Like, where would you want to be? And Walker said, Ole Miss. So that was it. He said, then go to Ole Miss. So that's that. I mean, that's really the story. So, I think it'd be curious to know in hindsight if he knew Dart and Sanders would both be there, if he would have gone. Don't know. I think that would be interesting. And then similarly, I don't think y'all realize how close Nuss was to leaving last offseason. Before the SC championship game. And there were two SEC, I will tell you, like I will say this, and you can choose to believe it or not. I'm good with whatever, if you choose to believe it or not. There were two SEC programs that offered him like starting caliber NIL opportunities. And yes, that's tampering, but everybody does it. And I'm not going to say the schools because everybody does it. But there were two SEC schools that offered him starting caliber NIL money, Nuss, to leave. And I believe he would have gone until he got that second half in the SC championship, and then Kelly sat down with him in that evaluation week, and they talked about splitting the reps for the bowl game and splitting the ones and giving him an opportunity to play. And you remember they did the alternating thing in the bowl game where Jaden played 2 series and then Garrett played 1. And if Jaden had played that complete SEC championship game, I don't think Garrett would have been here. I think Garrett would have left and Walker would have stayed. Like that's the way it was trending before that game. So it's interesting how things happen. If Jaden hadn't re-injured that ankle and played that entire game, I think Walker would be here and Nuss wouldn't. For better or worse. Brett, off topic. Watching Minshew Mania in Indy yesterday makes me wish Saints would have maybe tried to get Gardner Minshew and save some money, considering what we got now. I'm not going to fault the Saints for trying to win. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not going to fault the Saints for going and signing a quarterback that they felt like was going to get them to the next level. I just don't believe they signed the right one. And I said that from the beginning. Like, there's nobody that can come at me and say this is hindsight 2020 and all with Derek Carr. I'm the one. I'm going to be the only one, but I'm one of the ones that from the beginning was like, that guy stinks. You've had 10 years of evidence to suggest who he is. You know who he is. And he is a middle-of-the-road at best quarterback in the NFL, and you just gave him $100 million. He is Andy Dalton 2.0. Got drafted by a team. They made him their franchise for 9 years. Played a lot of games. The people that knew him best decided he ain't getting us anywhere. They cut him loose. Darren G. Morning Scone. The loyalty thing gets you 8, 4, 7, and 5. Fans that yap about loyalty also complain about being 8, 4, 7, and 5. It's true. Wish you could have seen what Bryce Langston was capable of, but if he didn't see the field, maybe he wasn't good in practice. But that's the point. That's the point. The coaches know best. The coaches know their players. They know their team. They know their roster. That's the point. So like sometimes you can go and see it, y'all. Like, part of me wants to go. The great thing about media and digital media in 2023 is like everything's recorded. I could go back and pull up my very first practice report from fall camp this year. And I'll never forget. I walked out of the indoor facility, sat in my car, and I did a hit on Charlie and Jimmy's show. And I was like, yo, the receivers annihilated the secondary. And look at how the season played out. That's not surprising now. But going into the year, everyone was excited about the cornerback transfers and yada, yada, yada. Brian Thomas hadn't really emerged yet. Now, I remember Jimmy was like, that's a problem, because usually the defense is ahead of the offense at the beginning of camp. Not this year. And look at how it all manifested. Jesse Brown, how bad are the Cajuns? Force 4 turnovers, score 3 touchdowns off those turnovers, still give up 500 yards of offense, and lose in OT to a school that is in the first year in the FBS. I didn't know they lost. Sorry to admit that, but I wasn't watching that game. I was watching the NFL game, and then... Oh, wow, Jacksonville State. And I had Jacksonville State laying 5. God dog it, or 4.5. So they didn't cover. Rich Rod, bro. Rich Rod at Jacksonville State playing well this year. Jeff McKithen, good morning. Craig Dugas, what's up? Brad Jones, what are your thoughts on Blanton's gold? Won a bottle at my company's Christmas party last night. Craig's right. It's a unicorn, so it's a great trade piece if you want it, but I'd say just crack it and drink it. Make your own determination. Craig Dugas, throwing a pretty deep ball to the opposing team doesn't automatically make you the starter. Craig's good for a few zingers. Craig, no basketball comments? Or did I miss him? Oh, there it is. Willie the Kid, the Bayou Band, has got a packed house today in Lake Charles. Big Game Bob gets to enjoy the hospitality of a real arena. Let's see. I'd be pleased if Omar Spates opted out and let Whit Weeks get all the linebacker 1 reps. He may. Let's see. Gulf South did not start against Arkansas. Didn't he come in for the second or third drive so he could get first team reps? That's a good question. Now that you say it, I think they did start Finley. Or no, they started Max Johnson that game, didn't they? They started Max Johnson, then Nuss came in and played out the string, which was dumb. Oh my God. God, Ed Otron didn't know what he was doing. God bless him. He was just throwing darts at a wall, man. Anyway, Ivan Salazar, Mission of Scone. It seems like Drew is always ready to go. When Drew wakes up in the morning, he is ready to rock. That's for sure. I don't know if y'all can still hear him in there. Donovan Adams, what's up? Ivan, Bengals and the Vikings played one heck of a game yesterday. Jefferson's back. Chase seems to be off without Burrow. Jamar Chase hurt his shoulder yesterday, but yeah, Justin Jefferson looked really good yesterday. Had the Bengals. I live bet the Bengals in game at plus 1.5, so cashed that ticket yesterday. That was good. Mac 34. Let's see, Gulf South Christmas-wise, does Baton Rouge or the surrounding area have anything similar to Christmas in the Oaks? Down here in NOLA, told the Baton Rouge General has a bunch of lights. What is the only place around VR? Yeah, so the Baton Rouge General has a cool setup that you can walk through. You can drive through or walk through. It's not nearly as big as Christmas in the Oaks. Not anywhere remotely close to it, but it is pretty cool. It's and you can see it from Blue. If you're coming like Bluebonnet from I-10, you'll see it on your right. You make that right turn, then you turn left into the big grassy area where they're doing the big lights. But that's about it. Or unless if you want to go drive through neighborhoods, there's a lot of neighborhoods that participate, like their HOA participates in Christmas light stuff. I know Kenilworth is one of them that has a huge Christmas lights parade around the holidays every year. That's kind of it that I'm aware of. Nothing like Celebration or Christmas in the Oaks, sorry. I don't want to call it Celebration in the Oaks. I want to call it Christmas in the Oaks. Swee, Ab, and Matt, what is the Saints organization committed to if they stick with Derek Carr and try to maximize the contract? Highest respects to you and your YouTube channel. Thank you, man. I appreciate it. And I completely understand your question and agree with it. I also understand that they went through an evaluation process, decided on Derek Carr. He's in the building every day. They made a giant commitment to him. So couldn't you also argue that it's worth it to see that commitment through and give him the resources he needs to try to maximize his ability? I mean, I understand where they're coming from with it. And it's much easier for you and me to say, kick that dude to the curb and go draft a quarterback when it's not us paying him $100 million, right? H-Town Creole, morning, Scone. LSU fan, the future of LSU looks bright. Caden Durham was over 200 yards in the second quarter. Oh, wow. You know what? I'll say this, H-Town Creole. The future of the running back position is starting to look way more like it should at LSU. Logan Diggs is an NFL runner. I think Jackson, certainly there's reason to be excited. Trey Holly popped the long one. Was it against Grambling that he popped the long one? And then when you look at Durham coming in and Harlan Berry, who I know pushed back his commitment date. He did announce that, right? I know he's... I think maybe, I don't know if I should have said that. Because I think he wanted to announce it. But he was pushing back his commitment date. Okay, good. Okay, so he's doing it at the Under Armour game. Yeah, okay, I'm just making sure. Anyway, because I know he wanted to put that out there on his own. But I think they're going to get Harlan Berry as well. So your running back room is going to look like an NFL running back room again. Let's see. Obviously, 20% is a horrible read rate. How much does that have to do with never getting first-team reps and going cold versus the best team in the country? Sure. Very plausible. Wouldn't you hope you do better? I mean, I get it. H-Town Creole, Corey Moore played a good game against 5-star corner. Danny Braywick, I understand all you're saying about bringing in experience. Is a consequence of that slowing the development of Ricky Collins? No, because if you didn't live in this world of transfers, Walker Howard would be ahead of Ricky Collins. So he would still be in the same spot. You just have a gap because Walker left. So you need to fill that gap with someone who has experience. And so if it's A.J. Swan, for example, that's a guy who started 12 games in the SEC. I'm not telling you A.J. Swan is like whoever was joked earlier, like A.J. Swan for Heisman. No, I'm not saying that A.J. Swan is going to be the next transfer Heisman quarterback at LSU. But if Nuss turns an ankle and a quarterback has to go in, would you rather a guy that started 12 games in the SEC or a redshirt freshman that's only handed off a couple times against Grambling? Like, there's an obvious answer there. And it's not to say in time Ricky Collins won't be the best option. He might be. Heck, he might be the best option coming out of fall camp. But you don't take that chance. No, you don't have to. Torben, if you had the chance to fire Loomis after the season and promote Ireland or Harley to GM, would you do it? I'm not sure that I would go with someone in-house. If you're going to fire Mickey Loomis, then I think you need new blood. Like, you've got to bring in someone with fresh ideas. Understanding that outside counsel is a good thing sometimes. You tried to keep the band together with the structure right now, with promoting DA and keeping Pete Carmichael, and you had a lot of player leadership and Loomis. I mean, you did this already, and look at the results. It's very clear the value of a head coach. I mean, look at what I know they lost yesterday, but look at what Sean Payton's done in Denver. Turning them from, 1-5 start to, they had one of the hottest, maybe the hottest team in the NFL when they had a 6-1 streak. I mean, anyway. So, no, I'm not against firing Loomis if it gets to that. What I am against is promoting from within. I think you need fresh blood if you go there. H-Town Creole, let's be honest about the quarterback situation. LSU, there won't be a situation when Jaden transferred. Only difference is Nuss is a lot better than Brennan. No good transfer quarterbacks coming with Nuss here. There's no reason at all that you could argue that Nuss is better than Brennan. None. Miles Brennan was an Elite 11 quarterback. Big kid, big arm. He started in 3 games in the COVID year. He threw for 400 yards against Missouri. A lot of the things that y'all are saying right now about Nuss, y'all were saying about Brennan. Like, the only difference is now you know how the Brennan thing played out. And you're just conveniently forgetting that. So, no. You don't get to make that declarative statement that Nuss is a lot better than Brennan. There's nothing that suggests that. Other than the ambiguity of not knowing. When you know how the Brennan situation turned out. That yearbook guy, maybe it's early, but there's a lot of Giants fans in the Dome so far. Oof. I expect that. I'm not surprised. The other thing to keep in mind, too, is late in the season. Late in the season, a lot of fans from the North come here because it's sunny and, it's 51 right now, but is it 51 right now? Or is that not accurate? It feels like it'd be warmer than 51. But it's sunny and beautiful right now. It's not sunny and beautiful in the northern part of our country. So a lot of fans choose to come down south this time of year to go to New Orleans or Miami or wherever. Look at Detroit last week, right? Or 2 weeks ago. Joseph Felwell, do you have a defensive end you like in the draft if quarterback isn't the pick? I don't think they're going DN, man. I think they're going offense. I think if they don't go quarterback, they're going to draft someone to help Derek Carr. So if they draft high enough, I think they get one of the elite left tackles. Or, it's such a great receiver draft. You're not going to be high enough to draft Harrison, but could you draft Neighbors or Keon Coleman or Brian Thomas Jr.? There's a, do you go Brock Bowers if you're high enough? I think you're going to draft someone offensively. As far as the D end, depending on where the Saints picked, hate to say it because a lot of people don't like him because of what he did, but Dallas Turner could be in play if you want an edge rusher, which I would love if you had the opportunity to get a guy like Dallas Turner. I think they're going to go offense. Let's see. As for Ricky Collins, I hope he develops fast because I see Nuss staying for 2 seasons, and by that time, Bryce Underwood will be on campus. Truth Hurts, Glenn Garner. If Carr blows this game, I'm going to be sick. Joseph Philwell, do you have an elf on the shelf with Drew? Yeah, we have an elf on the shelf. Yeah. Oh, the elf has been with our family for a few years now. Love it when that little guy shows up every year around Christmas. John Malonsaw, morning, Matt. How's Drew? He's good, John. Thank you for asking. Mac 34, Jeff B. In a way, I hope the Saints lose just to hear you rant after the game. Jeff, I'll tell you this, man. If they lose, you will get a rant after the game. But I want to be clear again, because I know not everybody heard this. The only reason I didn't have a video last week, it was not because they won and I was ignoring and not willing to talk about them being good and winning. The only reason I did not have a video last week because I was on an airplane flying home from New York. Travis Young, did you see the running back for Jacksonville State last night that's a commit to LSU? Or for Jayville? Are you talking about Caden Durham? Someone mentioned that he had a great night last night, but I did not see it. Let's see. Is the money the only reason why you're in favor of Winston but not Carr? Why you were in favor of Winston but not Carr? Both put up yards, but neither really did anything for the team who drafted them. Both were allowed to walk. So, no, not the money. We had a lesser sample size of Jameis. So if you're talking about when the Saints first signed Jameis was 26 years old. What they were trying to replicate with Jameis was the Breeze situation. And I understood what they were doing. You had a guy at 26 years old who was physically gifted enough to be the number 1 overall pick. He had thrown for 5,000 yards in a season, which has only been done by a handful of quarterbacks ever. It's more common now in 17 games in the style of offense. But I understand the 30 picks. But my point was, you get him away from Tampa. You bring him to New Orleans under Sean Payton, sit under Drew Brees for a year, watch, learn, develop, and then you have this super talented guy that hopefully you could take into the next iteration of his career the way you did with Brees when you got him from San Diego. That all made sense, and it was affordable. It was very affordable when you got Jameis. That's why that made sense. And you fast forward, and it didn't work. And I'm okay saying that. It didn't work. I understood at the time why to do it. Carr is now in year 10. We have a much larger sample size of Derek Carr today than we did of Jameis in 2020. 3 years ago. So it's hard to believe that Jameis' 4th season in New Orleans already. But that was the difference. It wasn't just the money. It was at his physical best, right? Just as a physical, just the physical components. Jameis is a physically superior quarterback to Derek Carr. And he was younger, and you could make the argument, terrible situation in Tampa, bad ownership, bad coaching, different head coaches, different OCs every year, give him stability, give him Sean Payton, learn under Drew Brees for a year, like all that made sense. And that's why I was in favor at the time. It just didn't work. So, like I would be fascinated to know how it might have turned out if Devin White didn't horse collar him and tear his ACL in that game on Halloween in 2021. I mean, you were 5-2 through 7 weeks. You were leading the division. Jameis was playing within himself and within the offense. Like, you were 5-2. I mean, how different might it have been if you didn't have to go then to the Trevor Siemian, Ian Book, Andy Dalton experiment the way that the Saints did. Guy Brooks, more praying for a solid and complete game for the Saints. A couple more. Please smash the like button if you haven't done so yet. As always, shout out to Brock and Hudco. Need orthopedics, call Brock and need a roof. Give us a shout, Hudco. Man, it rained all day yesterday. And I know when it rains like that, it's beautiful today. I know when it rains like that, the Hudco phones, it's going to be buzzing all day today. So we'd love to help you out. Free, no obligation roofing inspection. You can call or you can click that link that's pinned in the chat, and we'll give you a free no obligation roofing inspection. Just fill out the link, the form on the homepage. Someone will be in touch. Austin, Matt, you say winning masks deficiencies, perhaps losing masks sufficiencies as well. Miles Brennan was great the first 4 games of 2020. Austin, no, he wasn't. No, he wasn't. And that is a gigantic misconception. Miles Brennan was not great in the first 4 games of 2020. You lost the opener against Mississippi State. And if you go back and actually watch that game or go back and listen to all the commentary, read afterwards, people were so disappointed that Brennan had waited his turn, and he was so indecisive in that game. He took sacks, he was indecisive, he patted the ball and threw it away. It was like, man, this is your shot. Let her rip, and he didn't. Then they went to Vanderbilt the next week and won, and John Emery had a big game. And then week 3, they went and played against Missouri, and it was a lot of the same stuff with patting the ball, and I remember Trivia used to call it something else. It was a lot of indecision. You say, but he threw for 400 yards. He did, and there were a couple of long catch and runs in that game. And it was a high-scoring game. But Brennan was not great in those first 3 games of 2020 before he got hurt against Missouri. I would really encourage you to go back and refresh your memory. Go back and read some of the columns, listen to some of the commentary after those first 3 weeks, and it was not glowing. I mean, you were 1-2, and some of the yards was stat compiling in games where you needed to because you were throwing to catch up. Swee, what's your dog's name from the photo behind you? So there's 2. You can't really see. You can see that one. You can't see that one because of the glare. But they were Valley and Maggie were my dogs, and they had papers. They were boxers, and so that she was LSU's Death Valley, and Maggie was LSU's Broad Magnolia. That was their names on their paper, and they went by Valley and Maggie. So Death Valley and Josh Innes used to joke that I'd get another dog and name it like Himes Hall or so Student Union, just naming it after random buildings on campus. Lockett Hall. Jordan Malazzo, Scone, true or false? Dennis Allen will say post-game that there are some things he likes, some things we need to get cleaned up. That is true. That is factually accurate. Truth hurts. 55 is beautiful when it's sunny in 55 relative to when you're in the north and it's snowy and 2 degrees. Yes, 55 and sunny is beautiful. Light jacket weather, and sunny, dramatically better. That's truth hurts. I'm assuming you've never spent time in the north of the Midwest during the summer or during the winter, because you don't see the sun for about 10 months out of the year, and it is always bone-chilling cold, snowy, dreary, and awful. True or false, Dennis Allen could not lead a horse to water. That's pretty good. Hollywood Superdome turf is a career-ending injury sustained by players. Jameis is a recent addition and doesn't play the same. LA Chris, would you like to see Malik Murphy here, Matt? Sure. I would love to see talented players at the most important position in organized team sports. Yes. I would love to see talented players at quarterback here. I do not think that that's realistic, however. Do you think things are different for Jameis if he didn't tear his ACL? That's the hypothetical I was saying a bit ago. I would love to know how the rest of that season plays out. Because, for example, if 2021, they're 5-2 when Jameis gets hurt, let's say they go 11-5, win the division, make the playoffs, go on a run. Does Sean Payton never retire? Maybe Sean Payton never leaves. Maybe he's still the coach. I don't know. Maybe not. Maybe Jameis continues to develop. Maybe. Don't know. But it's not just about Jameis. It's also about Sean Payton. Because after that year, Payton left, and then they promoted Dennis Allen, and Jameis got hurt last year, and they went with Dalton, and that was a disaster. And you still have Carmichael here, and it's awful. Let's see. Gulf South, there's solid points about Winston. Isn't 5 years a lengthy sample size for a starting quarterback in the NFL? I could have said the same thing about Drew Brees. I mean, it's rare that you have guys leave the team that drafted them and go on and have greater success elsewhere. However, the Saints were looking at it through the prism of Drew Brees. They did that. They have literally the greatest example ever of that. I guess you could argue Steve Young, who became a Hall of Famer, was with Tampa, then went to the Niners. Brett Favre, who left Atlanta for Green Bay, became a Hall of Famer. So there are examples, but they are outliers, right? And the Saints were looking for an outlier. And they looked at a guy who was talented enough to be the first pick in the draft, who was still young, and they thought, let's let him, he has the things physically that you can't teach, so let's teach him. learn how to work, sit behind Drew Brees, learn how to be a professional, have one of the great offensive-minded coaches in Sean Payton tutor him. And I mean, so it made sense. I got it. It didn't work. But again, like we're saying, how different might it have been if Jameis didn't tear his ACL? I think that's a very fair question to ask. That is a very interesting what if. Anything under 75 with no humidity is always beautiful on the Gulf Coast and the boardwalk in, I guess it's supposed to be Kenna. Michael Sumner, how many drafted quarterbacks fail? Drafting a quarterback is not the best idea. Add one defensive guy for the run, add a guy on the offensive line, add a kicker, Saints undefeated. So I fundamentally disagree with that because your quarterback stinks and you have to be able to move the ball and score points. And no, drafting a quarterback is not a guarantee. And I've said that over and 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 over again. Like, maybe you draft Zach Wilson. Maybe you draft Mitchell Trubisky. Maybe you draft any number of first-round quarterbacks that fail. Maybe you draft Christian Ponder, E.J. Manuel. Go down the list. Blaine Gabbert. Yeah, it's possible you draft any one of those guys. Or maybe you draft Joe Burrow or Josh Allen or Patrick Mahomes or any of the other first-round picks that become starters in the NFL and win MVPs and championships and are great players. But you can't know that until you take your swing. Like, you've got to step up to the plate and take your hacks. And the Saints just never do it, literally. I mean, since Archie Manning, they have never drafted a quarterback in round one. It's the only time in the history of the franchise they did it. Like, you gotta be willing to go take your swing. I mean, the crazy part is we've lived through this franchise of watching Billy Joe Hobart and Billy Joe Tolliver and Heath Schuler and Jim Everett and Aaron Brooks and Jeff Blake. And, I mean, look at the atrocity of quarterback play we've watched at this franchise, and they'll never take their swing. Like, part of me respects tremendously the Jets taking Zach Wilson and taking Sam Darnold and the Bears taking Justin Fields and Mitch Trubisky. And, like, you gotta be willing to go get your guy, because while he may not work, the certainty is you're not winning a championship without one. So, like, it ain't 2000 where you can win with Trent Dilfer playing quarterback, managing because your defense allows 6 points a game. It's never happening again in the NFL, not in the modern NFL. Anyway. Caden Durham at 231 rushing yards and 3 touchdowns. Awesome. Good for him, man. Jonathan Powell. It's a shame another year wasting the great talent on this team because the coaching staff has no idea. I'd be surprised to see Mahomes find a Karen wig. What does that mean? Nate J. It's so bad for us. I'd rather have 38-year-old Joe Flacco than Derek Carr. Swami 504, until we address coaching and GM, the players are pretty much irrelevant. I'll never say coaching is irrelevant. I mean, there's no fan base that should be more aware of that than the Saints because of the Bounty Gate year. I mean, the Saints went from, in 2011, literally the greatest season in Saints history. They had the greatest offensive season in NFL history in 2011. Now, they didn't win the Super Bowl, I know. But 2011 was the best team in Saints history. They went from that to missing the playoffs altogether without Sean Payton, to then in 2013, Sean Payton's back, and you're back in the playoffs, and you win a playoff game against Philly on the road. And, like, there's no franchise that knows greater the impact of a great head coach. Now, you have to have players. Look at Bill Belichick. He's the greatest coach ever. If you don't have players, you can't win. They don't have players. But, man, you can't minimize the importance of coaching. Hollywood, M. Loomis doesn't draft anyone over 6 feet, LOL. Always thinking Drew Brees in the draft, but needs to wake up. Sean Payton had a winning record with crab legs the year we beat Aaron Rodgers down in week 1. All right, y'all, I think we're just about done. By the way, Jimmy Ott's Football Sunday is on right now. About 11:20 is when Central Time is when they start rolling with the picks, so I would highly recommend you check it out. And just about done. Okay, so do me a favor. YouTube, smash that like button. Thanks for watching, hanging out with us. Did an hour and a half show here this morning. That's great. Thanks for hanging out. YouTube, smash the like button, subscribe to the channel. Facebook, please like the Matt Moscona page, share the post. Well, let's see, a couple more just came in. Maybe we'll wait until 27. Saints will draft another quarterback named Arch Manning. Not a bad thought. Nate J, if I had the resources, I would get a billboard with the phrase, do something Gail Benson, the city deserves better. It'd probably be wasting your resources. I don't think Gail Benson would reply to a billboard. Happy Sunday. Can't wait to see your response. Be looking for it. All right, y'all. Jared Esprit, thank you for being here live. Appreciate it. All right, y'all. Hey, remember, Brock, after hours clinics open nights, weekends, as an alternative to the ER. Hudco Roofing, awful weather throughout Baton Rouge and much of Louisiana yesterday. If you have an issue with your roof, we'd love to help. Hudco Roofing, HudcoRoofing.com. Help us spread the good word. People need have roof issues. They need help. Hudco Roofing, HudcoRoofing.com. Okay, y'all have an awesome day. Who dat? Peace, I'm out of here.